for having me. My name is Grant Bishop. I first got involved in the question of possible election fraud, irregularities in South Korea in 2020. I was asked to come to South Korea and take a look at what had happened in the National Assembly elections in April of that year, and I didn't have much to do, so I was glad to get a free trip to South Korea. And I didn't think I was going to find anything. I thought this would just be another case where an election has a surprising outcome. And elections often turn out in ways you don't expect. So I thought I would spend a couple weeks in South Korea and then go back home. And once I started my inquiries and started to talk to South Korean witnesses who had raised these concerns, I realized there was something here. And these were excellent witnesses. They spoke about what they knew. They were experts in their specific fields. They didn't talk about things they didn't know. They didn't speculate. They provided facts. And I'm a lawyer, like 2 out of every 3 Americans, it seems. But I know something about witnesses in court. And of the 22 main witnesses I talked to, at least 20 of them would have been outstanding witnesses. And what they were telling me was this story of very serious election manipulation and fraud, ranging from fake ballots, different questions about the electronic ballot sorting, the counting machines. The entire NEC network was easily hacked. It seemed like that was a problem, and the procedural problems. There was a lack of transparency in the counting sites. Observers and monitors were not allowed to do their jobs. They were harassed. It seemed as though the National Election Commission was partial. It was not impartial, as international law requires it to be. And just one thing after another. And Gordon Chang mentioned one of the gentlemen I spoke with was the former president or dean of KAIST, sort of South Korea's MIT, and he said, as Gordon, he told me, he said, look, it was either God did it or it was rigged. And he also used the word, he said, well, the results here were artistic, which what it means in English? It's basically saying it's made up. And when a gentleman like this is testifying to this, and he has nothing to gain from it, I knew there was something really wrong that had happened. And it was an absolute eye-opener. And then I looked at, I know a little bit about, actually now I know a lot about international election law. And it wasn't just the counting of the votes, the outcome, it was also what happened afterwards. When you have the right to challenge an election, you think something is wrong, you have the right to bring that up. And even under South Korean law, these claims have to be addressed within 180 days. There were well over 100 cases that were raised. None of them were addressed within 180 days. Most of them were never addressed. And that is obviously a huge, huge problem. And anyone who challenged this, you could get arrested, you could get punished, you would be humiliated, ridiculed. You didn't have a very good life. And all you were doing was asking for your rights as a citizen of South Korea and rights under international law to be enforced. And you saw the treatment that these people got, these were good, decent citizens. And this was how they were treated for saying, look, we think there was something wrong in this election. And that was combined as well with allegations of foreign influence, and I think those are quite likely to be the case as well. And you noticed in all of this, the South Korean media was nowhere to be seen. The media wasn't interested in this, partly because they had been, the parts of it that might have been interested really were knifed in the back during the Moon Jae-in administration. And to the point the media was not performing its role. So you could see the problems facing South Korea because its electoral system was in trouble. But all you would hear is, well, these are baseless charges, conspiracy theories. And I used to be an intelligence officer with the Marines. And whenever somebody tells me there's nothing to see and to go away, I know there is something to see. And if you don't want me to think that, well, just show me, be transparent. and they couldn't do it. So I'm still here, obviously, and I've kept an eye on South Korean elections. I followed the 2022 presidential election, same problems. The 2024 election, the same problems. And I would note that when it comes to the question of electronic hacking and manipulation, well, in 2023, from July to September, the National Intelligence Service checked out or examined the National Election Commission's electronic systems, and they ran wild. They could do anything they wanted, and to include the steps you take to rig an election. And they did it only because there was a popular outcry, and it had been revealed that the North Korean Lazarus group had regularly hacked the NEC's systems. And what would the NEC tell you? Nothing to see here. No problems at all. So this is 2023. That's a few years after the 2020 election. The 2024 election is the same basic problems. So the last thing I would have that really what's the reason I'm still here, or come back, is that the evidence is out there. The evidence has been presented. And my group, or the group that I worked with, we wanted to make sure that the evidence that we found in 2020 did not become like a myth or a fairy tale, but we wanted to memorialize it, make sure that it's in concrete form, and that anyone who wanted could examine and challenge it. And it's actually in these two big volumes. And to my knowledge, to date, no government, no media, National Election Commission, nobody has examined it. Nobody has said we're wrong. And that's what we want to hear. So the information is here, as I said. These things weigh about 10 pounds each, it seems. But even more recently, you have documented reports by, say, the former Prime Minister, the fine gentleman, Mr. Hwang Kyo-an, that has specific details as well. And nobody challenges it. And that tells you something also. So the facts are there, the facts that nobody is looking into it. I suggest there's still a lot of work to be done. And ultimately, I'm here, and my colleagues as well, we're here because of what really freedom-loving Koreans who are worried about their country have done. It's not us who figured all this stuff out. So it's, I feel it's an obligation to actually come and say what I think is going on here. So I appreciate you having me here, and I apologize for speaking so long just now. Thank you.